It was the kind of street where the sound of children's laughter was more common than the hum of passing cars. White picket fences framed neat lawns, and neighbors often left their front doors unlocked without a second thought. At the heart of this peaceful American suburb lived the Andersons, a family so picture-perfect they could have been pulled straight from a magazine cover. Michael Anderson, 42, was the man most in the neighborhood knew as the dependable one. He ran a small but thriving construction business, the kind that allowed him to be home for dinner most nights. Michael's easy smile and firm handshake made him a respected figure in town. Beside him was his wife Laura, 39, a school counselor known for her warm hugs and uncanny ability to remember every child's name in the community. She was the kind of person people turned to when life grew heavy. Then there were the children, three beautiful souls who, in the eyes of their parents, were the very definition of blessings. There was Emily, the eldest at 12, sharp as a tack and with an infectious laugh that could light up the dullest day. She had a love for sketching and always carried a small notebook where she drew everything, from the family cat to the clouds drifting past her bedroom window. Joshua, the middle child at 8, was the dreamer. He was fascinated by space, often lying on the grass at night with a blanket, pointing at constellations and asking questions about the universe that left his parents smiling in wonder. And then there was Lily, just 5, with curls that seemed to have a life of their own and a voice that was constantly humming. She had the kind of innocence that made strangers smile and the kind of energy that made her mother sigh in equal parts exhaustion and joy. For years, their life was blissfully ordinary. Mornings began with hurried breakfasts, laughter echoing from the kitchen as the children argued over cereal choices. Afternoons were filled with school pickups, football practice for Joshua, art club for Emily, and ballet lessons for Lily. Evenings were a tapestry of family dinners, homework, and bedtime stories. From the outside, there was no reason to suspect that a storm was brewing, that shadows from Michael's past were creeping ever closer, ready to shatter the life they had so carefully built. The first hint of change was so subtle, it barely registered. One evening, Laura noticed a car she didn't recognize parked across the street, a dark sedan, engine idling, lights off. By the time she pointed out to Michael, it had driven away. "Probably just someone lost," Michael said casually, brushing it off with the ease of a man who had nothing to fear. But deep inside, Michael felt something he hadn't in years, an uncomfortable tightening in his chest, as if an old wound had just been pressed. He pushed the feeling aside, convincing himself it was nothing. For now, life continued as normal. Birthdays were celebrated, photos were taken, and love seemed unshakable. But in the quiet corners of Michael's mind, a memory stirred. And in the shadows, a woman was watching, waiting, planning. It began with a letter, not an email, not a text message. A physical letter, handwritten in neat but deliberate strokes, the kind of penmanship that seemed almost too careful. Laura found it in the mailbox one late afternoon. She didn't think much of it at first. The envelope was unmarked, no return address. She placed it on the kitchen counter alongside bills and flyers, ready for Michael to see after work. When Michael arrived home, the children greeted him with their usual chaos. Emily asking for help with a school project, Joshua waving a drawing of a rocket ship, and Lily pulling at his sleeve to show him her new ballet move. He was halfway through a laugh when he spotted the letter. The moment his eyes fell on the handwriting, the smile faded. It was as if someone had pressed pause on him. "Who's it from?" Laura asked, her tone casual. Michael didn't answer immediately. His fingers traced the edge of the envelope, as if debating whether to open it. Then with a sigh, he tore it open. Inside, a single sheet of paper carried just one sentence. "You thought you could forget me, but I haven't forgotten what you took from me." No name, no signature. But Michael didn't need one. He knew exactly who had written it. Her name was Vanessa Grant. Years before Laura, before the children, before the stable life he had now, there was Vanessa. They met in college, a whirlwind romance fueled by passion and impulsivity. But Michael was a different man then. Reckless, selfish, driven by desires he didn't care to control. He didn't just break Vanessa's heart, he broke something much deeper. For For 2 years, their relationship was a volatile cycle of breakups and reconciliations. And in that time, Vanessa had been pregnant more than once. Each time, Michael insisted she wasn't ready, pushing her into abortions she didn't want, but felt powerless to refuse. By the time the relationship ended, Vanessa's womb was damaged beyond repair. She would never be able to have children. Michael never told anyone, not his friends, not Laura. To the world, Vanessa had simply moved away, but he knew the truth. She had left with a pain that time could not soften. Now she was back. The days following the letter felt different. Michael caught glimpses of a figure he thought might be her, a woman standing at the far end of the street, sunglasses covering half her face. Other times he was sure he saw the dark sedan again, parked just out of view. Laura noticed the change in him, the way he locked the doors twice at night, the way his eyes scanned the street before backing out of the driveway. "Michael, is there something you're not telling me?" she asked one night. He hesitated, torn between confession and denial. In the end, he lied. Number just work stress. But the truth was, Vanessa had already made her second move. The phone calls began, silent ones at first, then a low voice whispering things like, "They're beautiful children, Michael," or, "Do they look more like you or her?" He changed numbers. The calls still came. And then, one rainy Tuesday, Michael received a second letter. This time it said, "You took my chance to be a mother. Let's see how it feels when I take yours." The morning of April 17th began like any other. Laura was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes while the smell of coffee filled the air. Emily sat at the counter, reading aloud from a science book, while Joshua and Lily were in the living room, bickering over who got to choose the cartoons. Michael had an early meeting, so he kissed them all goodbye before heading out. But not before casting a lingering look at his children, one that Laura noticed. It wasn't the look of a man simply leaving for work. It was the look of someone memorizing faces. At 10:32 a.m., Laura received a text from the school secretary. "Hi, Mrs. Harper. Just confirming that Emily was picked up as scheduled." Laura frowned. Picked up? She hadn't arranged for anyone to collect Emily early. She called the school immediately. "Yes, Mrs. Harper, a woman came in with the correct security code. Said there was a family emergency. Emily went with her." Laura's heart slammed in her chest. "What woman?" The description made her blood run cold. Tall, dark hair, wearing sunglasses. By 11:15 a.m., panic had spread like wildfire. Laura contacted Michael, who sped home. But before he could even process what was happening, his phone buzzed again. It was the nanny from the daycare center where Lily stayed in the afternoons. "Mr. Harper, I'm so sorry, but the lady you sent for Lily already collected her. She had the ID card and the pickup form you signed." Michael's hands tightened around the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. "I didn't send anyone!" Police were called immediately. Officers arrived at their home, taking statements, checking surveillance. But the nightmare wasn't over. At 2:47 p.m., Joshua's school called. A similar story. A woman claiming to be a relative had picked him up. 3 children, taken, in the span of 4 hours. The first thought from investigators was a kidnapping for ransom, but the family received no demand, no phone call, no note. Instead, at 8:13 p.m., Michael's phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. 1 down, 2 to go. Attached was a picture, Emily's lifeless face, eyes closed, a single daisy placed on her chest. Detective Aaron Briggs, a seasoned investigator with 15 years on the force, immediately suspected organized retaliation. His theory, Michael had crossed the wrong business partner. The precision of the abductions suggested planning, surveillance, and knowledge of the family's routines. But as the investigation deepened, the truth began to surface. One of Michael's old college friends, questioned as part of the background check, mentioned a name investigators had never heard before: Vanessa Holmes. Michael's facade cracked under pressure. The story spilled out. The relationship, the abortions, the damage, the bitter breakup. Detective Briggs leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen against the table. "She's not after money, she's after you, and she's doing it in the most painful way she can imagine." By midnight, the second message came. 2 down. A photograph of Lily, her small body wrapped in a white blanket, a daisy again on her chest. Vanessa wasn't hiding her crimes. She was staging them, sending him proof, piece by piece. The air in the Harper home that night was heavy, oppressive, the kind that makes every tick of the clock sound like a hammer strike. Laura sat on the sofa, her face pale and streaked with tears, clutching Joshua's favorite hoodie like it was the last piece of him she might ever hold. Michael paced the living room, phone in hand, waiting, hoping, dreading. Detective Briggs and his team had turned their dining table into a command post. Maps, photos, and case notes covered the surface. Every officer knew what was at stake. They had one child left to save, but Vanessa was always one step ahead. At 2:16 a.m., Michael's phone lit up again. "It's almost over, Michael. I saved the boy for last." Attached was a short video. Joshua was tied to a chair, eyes wide with fear, gagged with a strip of fabric. Behind him, Vanessa's voice could be heard, calm, almost affectionate. "Your father made choices, Josh, and now he learns what choices cost." Michael's knees buckled. Laura screamed. Briggs sprang into action. "We trace the signal now. Move. Every second counts." Technicians worked furiously. The ping came back to an abandoned farmhouse 40 miles outside the city. Within minutes, a convoy of police vehicles tore through the night, sirens muted, lights off. When they reached the property, the air was thick with the smell of damp earth and something else. Faint, metallic, unmistakable. Officers breached the door. The inside was silent. Dust floated in the torchlight. A chair sat in the middle of the room, rope dangling from its arms. On the floor, a single daisy. Joshua was gone. They searched the grounds. Behind the barn, they found him, his small body lying under the open sky, eyes closed, peaceful in death. Another daisy on his chest. Vanessa was nowhere to be found. Back at the station, Michael broke down completely. Every lie, every buried secret from his past had resurfaced, taking the lives of the three people who mattered most. Detective Briggs, hardened by years of crime scenes, quietly admitted to a colleague that this was one of the cruelest acts he'd ever seen, not because of the number of lives lost, but because of how deliberately and personally they were taken. Weeks later, Vanessa's image appeared on a traffic camera 3 states away. She was smiling, she was free, and she had left behind a family in ruins. Michael and Laura separated. She couldn't look at him without seeing the shadow of his past. Michael now lives alone, tormented by the knowledge that the woman he wronged had delivered her vengeance with surgical precision, and that somewhere out there, she's still breathing, still planning. Some crimes end with an arrest. This one never did, and maybe that was exactly how Vanessa wanted it. If you believe the past stays buried, think again. Share this story to remind others. The truth has a way of digging itself back up, and sometimes it comes back with a vengeance.